You know, every single day, we make hundreds, maybe even thousands of choices. But what if I told you there's a hidden force, a really powerful bias that's pulling the strings on a lot of those decisions, and you probably don't even realize it's happening? It's this quiet force that's shaping our health, our money, and even our happiness. So what is it? Let's dive in. I mean, this is the big mystery, isn't it? That extra slice of cake, hitting the snooze button again, that little impulse buy online. We know, deep down, we probably shouldn't, but we do it anyway. So why? Why is the pull of right now so much stronger than the promise of tomorrow? Just think about it. Flash sales, those limited time offers, the little countdown timers ticking away on a website. These aren't just clever sales tactics. They are perfectly designed psychological triggers. They are made to tap directly into that hidden force, creating this intense feeling of urgency that makes us act now and think about it later. And it's not just about shopping, of course. This impulse is a really fundamental part of being human. It's this daily battle we all fight between what we want in this very moment and what we want for our future selves. Come on, does any of this feel a little familiar? Hitting snooze just one more time. Promising ourselves we'll start that diet, tomorrow. Binge watching one more episode when we should be working. Or, putting off that doctor's appointment. These aren't signs that we're failing. They're just classic, everyday examples of this universal human tendency at work.
Well, it's time to give this mysterious force a name. Let's pull back the curtain and meet the cognitive bias that's sitting at the heart of all this. It's called present bias.
Okay, so what does that actually mean in plain English? Present bias is basically our brain's default setting to overvalue whatever is right in front of us. We would almost always rather take a smaller, guaranteed win right now than wait for a much bigger payoff down the road. Why? Because the now feels real, it feels certain, while later feels kind of abstract and far away.
And what's really fascinating is that this is not some new, modern problem. You might think it's all because of our instant gratification world, but nope. This quote from the ancient Greek poet Hesiod shows that people have been wrestling with the temptation of later for literally thousands of years. It's a timeless human struggle.
But why do we do this? Why are our brains wired this way? Well, to really get to the root of this bias, we need to look at what's going on inside our own heads. It's really a story of two competing systems. A story that was famously illustrated with a simple, sugary treat. So, think of it like this. Your brain has two competing systems. On one side, you've got the emotional brain, this ancient, impulsive part called the limbic system. It evolved for immediate survival, and it gets all fired up by instant rewards. Then, on the other side, there's the logical brain, the more recently evolved prefrontal cortex. That's the part responsible for planning, for thinking about the future. Present bias is just what happens when your emotional brain wins the argument. And this internal battle was perfectly captured in the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment. Picture this. A little kid is sitting in a room, and the deal is simple. You can have this one marshmallow right now, or if you can just wait for 15 agonizingly long minutes, you can have two. It's a simple but incredibly powerful test of delaying gratification. And the results of this little test? They were profound. Decades later, researchers followed up with these kids and found that the ones who could wait for that second marshmallow, the ones who let their logical brain win, tended to have better life outcomes, everything from higher test scores to better health. So that ability to manage our present bias has real long-term consequences. And of course, this isn't just about marshmallows. The constant pull of now carries a very, very high price, and it affects the most important areas of our lives. Think about it. It impacts our health when we put off appointments or choose the unhealthy meal because the negative effects feel like a problem for future you. It chips away at our wealth by pushing us to spend more and save less, and it's the absolute engine of procrastination, making us avoid those tough but important tasks that have the biggest long-term rewards. And if you want a really powerful example, just look at this number. 63% of investors admit to panic selling when the stock market drops. This is a perfect case of present bias in action. That immediate, gut-wrenching fear of loss completely hijacks our brains and overpowers the long-term logical strategy of just staying put for future growth. Okay, so we've been talking about this as a personal struggle. But here's the twist. This natural tendency of ours isn't just a personal quirk. It's a well-understood button in our brain, and it is systematically and expertly pushed to influence your behavior every single day. This is basically the playbook. Scarcity alerts, like only 2 left, that's just triggering your fear of missing out.
Prices that end in 99, that's a classic trick to make our emotional brain think something is way cheaper than it is. It's all designed to make your impulsive brain scream, "Yes!" before your logical brain can even start asking questions.
And do these tricks work? Oh, you better believe it. The data is just undeniable. Just changing a price to end in .99 can boost sales by up to 20%. And a simple limited stock alert that can make you 35% more likely to buy something. Our brains are just hardwired to respond to these cues. So yeah, it might feel like the deck is stacked against us, but it's not hopeless, not at all. We can actually learn to recognize this bias and start making more conscious choices. It's time to outsmart our own impulsive minds. And this right here is probably the most important takeaway of all. The key to getting back in the driver's seat isn't about having superhuman willpower. It's much simpler. It's about having awareness. Just knowing that present bias exists is the first and most powerful step to overcoming it.
So how do we build that awareness? Well, first, just start recognizing the triggers. When you feel that pressure to buy or act now, just pause and ask why. For big decisions, create a mandatory cooling-off period for yourself. Even better, automate your good decisions. Set up automatic savings, plan your meals ahead. That way you take the in-the-moment choice away. And finally, my favorite, always ask yourself one simple question. Will the future me be happy with this choice?
Look, the hidden force of present bias is always going to be there, nudging us toward what feels good right now. But here's the thing, now you can see it, you know how it works, and you know how it's being used. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? What choice, big or small, will you make differently, maybe even starting today?